Hey ticklers, welcome to the Crafting Up New Things show where we take great ideas and create them with our tiny ticklers. Today we're going to make a DIY chef's hat for Labubu. This was inspired because when I got Cece, my first little Labubu, our first outing together, we went to lunch and I was so excited. I just kept putting Cece next to all of the dishes we were receiving to our table and it was adorable. And so I think she needs a chef hat for those special little outings or lunches with friends and other fellow Labubus. Let's go ahead and talk about materials. We don't need very much. My goal for this is that it is no sew. I hate sewing. I hate having to use a needle and thread. I think it's too difficult for something that should be more fun and exciting. I prefer to use a glue gun. I don't know, that's just how I do it. So today you will need a few things. A measuring tape. If you are using a have a seat Labubu, hopefully our heads are the same size and you can just use my measurement. Either way, you will need something to measure out the fabric that you use. So either a ruler or a measuring tape should work just fine. You'll also need a glue gun. So I have this little thing, I've had it for years. It's kind of grody and gross. Just got like some shmoo on there, but it works like a charm. It is heating up as we speak. You'll also need a white fabric quarter. I bought this at a craft store. They sell them in just like smaller packs. So hopefully you can get your hands on one of these. If not, I'm also going to try this with tissue paper. So if you have a sheet of tissue paper, you'll be able to walk through the steps with me that way as well. We'll see how it goes. And then scissors. You'll need scissors. I'm using full-size scissors today for this project. All right, let's get started. All right, ticklers, so I've actually never done this before, but I have a pretty good idea of what we need to do. So let's hope it works. Prior to getting started, you may want to iron or steam your fabric to remove any creases from it. It's not necessary, but I think it does give a much cleaner chef look to the hat. The first thing we're going to start with though is measuring Labubu's head. So I have one of these like fabric measuring tapes. So I'm just going to go around her head and see about how much I need to account for. So I'm at about 9 inches, and that'll make sure not to cover too much of her eyes either. I'm going to go with 9. Go ahead and jot down that measurement. And if you also have a seat Labubu, you already have your measurement done. Okay, next we're going to move over to the fabric. So I'm going to take Cece and set her aside and grab my fabric. I'm actually going to try and use this weird frayed edge of the fabric only because we're going to fold it a couple of times. So what we'll do is I want my band to be about an inch thick or an inch tall. So I have this other little measuring stick that I can use. All right, and so that's about 1 inch. You can also use your knuckle to measure out the inch. Once I have that, I'm going to fold it one more time over. So take it, fold it again. So I'm now hiding that frayed edge in the fold. Next, we're going to measure out that 9 inches for the band. So going back to my measuring tape, laying it out. In fact, I'm going to go a little bit extra, a little more than 9. I'm going to go for 9.5, just in case I need that wiggle room when I'm attaching at the end. Just mark it with a pencil. Then it's time to cut. So you're going to take your scissors, you're going to cut that little triple fold that you made. Okay, next I'm going to twist, and because I have this beautiful fold, I'm just going to cut along the side of that fold, and I'm going to end up hiding that in the fabric anyway, so I'm not too worried about it looking bad. Like, it's all going to be hidden once I put everything together. So again, I'm just cutting off that 9-inch strip for the band. Okay, you can put the rest of that big fabric aside. Gonna do a quick size check. Make sure this is what I want. So again, wrapping around Labubu's head. Getting that link out of the way. And it's perfect. So it gives me just a little bit of overlap so that at the end when I'm ready to attach, we're ready to go. We're not gonna have any issues not having enough length back there. So I think a nice 1/2 inch will be a perfect amount to add, making sure that you'll have space to connect it later. All right, now I'm gonna get my band ready to go. And to do that, I'm going to use my glue gun and attach these pieces together. I'm just going to do little dots down the middle. So dot, dot, dot. And then I'm going to fold this over. Careful not to burn yourself. The glue, even though there's fabric in between, it can get very hot to touch, and sometimes the glue will go between the little fabric fibers, so do be careful. Kids, especially if you're trying to make one of these, maybe have an adult help you with this part because it's hot. And our tender little fingers, these little ticklers can't handle it all the time. A little more glue. Push, 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 push. All right, almost done. Doing a little bit more. And by doing this triple fold, all of these little glue dots will not be visible on the front end of the hat band. So I'll show you that in just a second. Okay, so flipping it over, you can't see that I have any of that glue back there. That's kind of the upside of doing that extra fold, is you can hide that little bit of glue. All right, your band is done. Perfect. Next, we're going to get into the harder part. So we need to build the top of the hat. And most chef hats that I've seen have creases or like these little pleats. So that's going to be the first thing we're going to try and do. So take a clean edge of your fabric. I'm going to go over here with this one. And you're going to create enough pleats that are the same length. Uh-oh, camera, come on. Okay, I don't know what happened, but we have officially switched to a different camera. Let's go over how to make pleats or the tiny folds in a chef hat. First, you'll need to find a clean edge of your fabric. I'm looking for the pre-cut edge because I know that it would have come perfectly done from the factory. So I'm going to fold downwards. I'm going to start by taking the corner, folding it down. And when you do that, you'll also put a small dot of glue right behind that fold. Press it down. Be careful not to burn your ticklers. Do another fold and do another dot of glue. Press down the fabric. We're working with a really big piece of fabric, so it's kind of tricky at first, but with every fold, the overall length of the fabric will start to lessen and this whole process will get much easier. Don't worry about what the rest of the fabric looks like. All we need to worry about is keeping the fold straight. Continue the process, lift your fold, add a dot of glue right under it, and then press down.
So I don't know about the rest of you, but when I got my first Labubu, I was at a food fest. I didn't really know what these were, but the family friends that I was there with were raving about them. I honestly thought they were just plush little bunnies until I saw their snarky little grins. I didn't even know that they were popular. I personally think rabbits are cute, so I just figured I'd buy one because everybody was buying one. I didn't even know that I was already paying like more money than I should have. I guess they're much cheaper in store if you can get them. This CC that I am making the hat for was about $40 for the blind box. It wasn't until later that I found out that I guess people don't even like CC. One of my other friends was able to buy one for about $20 because the seller was having too tough of a time getting rid of them, which is a bummer, but whatever. I am happy with it, and I really didn't know what to expect. And like I shared earlier, the first outing where I took my Boo out, I was with a friend, we're at lunch, and it just seemed really adorable to have Cece sitting next to all of the dishes that were being brought out. I really felt that at that point, a chef hat would have been the perfect accessory for Labubu. It was later that I found out there's a whole community of shoppers buying outfits for Labubus. I do feel like I was a little late to the game, but when I started doing a little more research, I couldn't believe the cost of some of the outfits. I personally cannot bring myself to spend that kind of money when I enjoy crafting. So that's where this whole vibe is coming from, my desire for those cute fits, but at a reasonable cost, and the ability to just create them ourselves. And I have plenty of friends who recognize that I have this creative side, and many of which have encouraged me to sell some of my creations on Etsy or make an Etsy store, but that's just not my style. You can get a sneak peek of some of those creations at the end of the video. But there's something special about creating your own passions and being able to share those ideas with others. And that's where I decided to come up with this channel. It'll give me the opportunity to share my passion and maybe inspire others to explore potential creations that you can create with those little ticklers. Now that I'm out of fabric, let's see how much length is left. It looks like it's not quite where I was hoping it would be, but that's okay. Now it's time to measure for the height of the hat. And I wanted it to be about 5 inches tall total. So let's see. So it looks about right. I'm going to just chop using my scissors straight across. I'm not worried about how bad this top cut is. At the end, you're not going to see this part of the hat anyway. So go ahead and rotate your fabric and just cut up to about 5 inches. Now I'm going to just keep continuing by adding more fabric and making more pleats. If you didn't run out of fabric, you can skip ahead. You don't need to see this part. While I'm doing this though, I'd love to talk a little bit about my workspace. I do have a fairly large desk, but I also do put down a piece of white butcher paper for every project. It allows me to sketch out any notes, measurements, and I don't really worry about getting hot glue or paint or whatever I'm working on my desk. So it's a nice way to just protect your tabletop. If you don't have a roll of paper, you can always just get an old like paper bag and just lay that down. It's just to protect your workspace. And as I'm near the end of the pleats and gluing down these folds, I am going to cut the extra height from this fabric that I had to attach. So go and grab those scissors if you're in the same situation, cut off that extra fabric, and that's it. We did it. Let's grab the band. Now that you're done gluing all the folds, you're going to look for the most perfect side of this hat. This one here is my favorite. I think the folds came out best here. I'm definitely aiming to hide my mistake over here at the back of the hat. Once I find that perfect side, I'm going to put a couple dots of glue and then place my band on top. I want that rough edge below the band, meaning I don't want anyone to see it. This will allow me to hide all of those loose threads from this rough edge. Again, this is the middle of your chef hat, so make sure the band is aligned to the middle as well. I'm so nervous. Well, now that you have that first middle section glued, press it down, and then we'll flip the hat over. We'll continue to glue the band and pleats together. Do your very best to keep the pleats straight. Don't let them go at an angle. And here I go. I'm adding a short line of glue and then laying down the pleats. Make sure they're straight. Continue this process until all of the pleats are fully attached to the band. And keep an eye for any loose edges. You can always go back and add a little bit more glue if some of the edges are coming detached from the band. Let's try it on for size. Fold it around and just pinch it together with your fingers. Then let's try sliding it over your Labubu's head. Ooh, this is nice. So it fits just as I expected, but I do have some extra fabric in the back. So I'm just going to cut off those extra pleats using my scissors. If you had to do the same, make sure you resize this to your Labubu's head. So here we go, just one more time, quick size check. And I think this is good. Yep. I'm going to go ahead and add some dots of glue onto the back of the band and then attach the bands together. I think this is it. We're ready. If you're looking to hide this rough edge that's at the back of the hat band, you can just tuck it under with a small bit of glue. So here we go. I'm going to try it out. Small dot of glue. Whew, this is hot. So definitely protect those ticklers. You cannot craft without them. Okay, we are almost done. Once that glue is dry, have Labubu try it on for size. And obviously this hat is way too tall, so I am going to try and chop some of the extra height off. And just be careful not to cut Labubu's ears. You can just do an ugly chop across the top of the hat. It doesn't have to be perfect. You're going to take the top free edge and just start folding them inward after you make this cut. Now that you have a general feeling and idea of how you're going to enclose the top of the hat, you can go ahead and let it go and then add a dot of glue at a time. You will risk burning your ticklers by attaching this free edge to one another. So you'll want to be kind of careful and plan out what layers are laying on top of one another. Make sure you're only using that small dot of glue to minimize the tickler burn because it is not fun. Continue this process until your entire hat is enclosed along the top. And there you have it, your very own Chef Labubu. How cute is that? If you liked making this first time craft with me, like, subscribe, comment below on what we should try next. We're just getting started here, ticklers. See you next time.